What's up, everyone? Welcome to my corner of the internet. I'm your host, Ryan Cramer, and this is Crossover Commerce, presented by PingPong Payments, the leading global payments provider helping sellers keep more of their hard-earned money. Hey, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Crossover Commerce. I'm your host, Ryan Cramer, and this is my corner of the internet where I bring the best and brightest in the Amazon and e-commerce space. That is what this podcast is about, is bringing different parts of the industry into this corner of the internet so we can educate you, whether it be an entrepreneur who's trying to, is an SMB or a small and medium-sized business, or you're trying to grow your business to new heights in international ways that you never thought possible, but we're going to try to get you the tips and tricks and everything I can of each and every one of our guests in this podcast to help you grow your business. That being said, want to go ahead and give a quick shout out to the presenting sponsor of this podcast, PingPong Payments. So if you're watching this and you don't know what PingPong Payments is or who they are, perfectly fine, but you haven't been paying attention. If you're seen any one of our past episodes or episodes, all 190 leading up to today, PingPong Payments is helping international sellers, whether it be domestically paying international suppliers, manufacturers, VAs, or anyone in a different country, helping them save time, money, and effort. What does that mean? That means you can actually pay out your employees, business entities in localized currency without ever having to step foot in that country. And that means helping people save time, money, and fees. That is obviously money that you can put towards your bottom line. You can hire a different person. You can order more inventory. You can start to take that money and expand your business, or just have it padded so that on a rainy day, you can have those funds saving for you and working for your business instead of paying fees through banks or any other sort of service out there. So that being said, utilize and sign up for PingPong Payments today by going to usa.pingpongx.com/podcast. And that's where you will find all of our past episodes, all 190 leading up to today, which I'm super excited about. This Friday, December, let's check the watch here, December 3rd. If you're listening to this, I'm at a different date. We're in the midst of Q4. We come out of, I've heard it called Turkey 5 by some people. That's the 5 days between Thursday, Black Friday, into Cyber Monday. I believe it's 5 days or so. Check my math on that. But it's been a crazy week thus far. People are looking at statistics, what that means for businesses going forward. And believe it or not, a lot of people have seen that it has dropped in terms of sales year over year. The first time it has dropped, but it's still growing year over year. But doesn't mean that there's too many major takeaways. But in terms of that, my quick analysis would be people are buying more in different parts of the year. There's logistics problems, there's sourcing problems, there's lots of different inventory issues, but people are just trying to shop at different parts of the year. That being said, quick analysis of that. Why that applies to today is because there's a lot of buzz about how brands are starting to grow going into 2022. If you're looking at December 3rd and you're looking at the rest of the year, what are your plans for 2022? How am I going to grow my business even further? Whether it be starting out or launching new products or just trying to grow an audience, what are those ways? Those ways are going to be going through influencer marketing. Influencer marketing, if you have been living under a rock, if that's anywhere on social media, someone who has an audience of a certain degree, right? That would be of small magnitude of 1 to 1,000 people, or that could be nano influencers up to 10,000, macro, and you go, full-fledged supernova influencer, whatever we want to call it, and you want to dictate to it. Those are people that have the blue check marks, who are going to have the major followings, the sponsorships, things like that. Why that's important to small and medium-sized business owners, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and welcome on our guest. We're going to be talking with Cody Wittick of Kynship today, and we're going to be kindly talking through. I hope it's always kind. Talking through growing your e-commerce business through influencer marketing. Without further ado, Cody, welcome to Crossover Commerce. Thanks for hopping on today.
Thanks, Ryan. It's good to be here.
Yeah, of course. So you're joining us from Orange County, California. Did I pronounce the name of the company right? That's first and foremost. Kynship? Is that how there's a KYN, and that could be, I was like, knee-ship or anything like that, or it's like a silent K. What are we going with here? So what's that coming? First and foremost, congrats on the success of everything you've done, and I appreciate you joining us today. I'm a little want to know more about you and their background. How do we get where we are today? And you hopping off calls and talking to the likes of working with like what LeBron James, Dale Earnhardt. I saw a lot of A-list celebrities. That was pretty impressive. I'll give that to you. Working with those kinds of people in the influencer marketing space. So tell me about you. Tell me about the company.
Yeah. So before starting Kynship, I mean, those names you referenced was at a brand called QALO. That's where I kind of cut my teeth with influencer marketing. They started this silicone wedding ring industry.
And is that your wedding ring first and foremost, or is that something you just have on hand? I was gonna say, hopefully we're married and we're not just using this for like props or anything like that.
No, I don't have any other presentation things to present today.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's where I cut my teeth in influencer marketing and was building out the influencer program there from basically 2014, 15 to 2018, right before the month before January 2019 when we started Kynship. And yeah, we got to work. I mean, gosh, a lot happened in those years of a lot of mistakes too, but also got to work with a lot of big names. And yeah, it was the Facebook ads heyday too at that time with testimonials and being able to repurpose their content. So that's dictated a lot of our strategy even today, but times have changed. So, but yeah, because of the use case of the ring, it was just such a wide ranging categorically that we could work with influencers in all different categories that I was able to get a lot of experience in, from, the big time athletes to all the way down to your mommy bloggers of the world.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really cool product. And obviously I want to say one of the first of its kind, if not like the very popular brand that even today is still popular amongst a lot of different people, has a wide use case too. So you're doing that, you're working in an industry that really doesn't have a playbook, right? Like this is something you're just like not making up as you go, but you're trying to dictate what's going to work, what isn't, what is, and going from there. Why do you think it was so important then? And obviously it's grown to new heights even today to develop a new company out of it.
Why do you think it was so important to develop a new company?
Well, I mean, as you're finding out that this was where the market was going, like what's been that journey like? And then obviously you're going to stake a business around it, that it's going to be sufficient, it's going to be here for a long time, and you guys are going to work with multiple clients instead of one brand,
right?
Obviously that's one big use case, but this is something where you're hopefully working with hundreds of products now and going
I
from
just
there.
fully believe in influencer marketing as a channel. It's always been around. If you just look at history as a great teacher, it's always been around. Just the mediums have changed. And so it used to be just TV commercials, seeing your favorite athletes or favorite influencers. We just didn't always call them influencers, right? And then as it's morphed, it's just morphed into Instagram stories. And now I get to see LeBron James in his, kitchen talking about Taco Tuesday with his family. Like they're just incredible more access into their lives, which makes them all the more influential. So I just think the platforms will continue to change time and time again. In 15 years, it won't be TikTok anymore. Maybe it'll be something else. But yeah, influencers will always be around because we've always looked at other humans to look for inspiration or connection, etc.
Right. So in that regards, is it just the access into someone's like personal lives of, hey, this is what I use? It's like you said, it's always been around of, you see somebody, I think in olden days, like people reference like smoking, like not a obviously there's science behind it, but I saw people that you would look up to. Maybe that's why people started smoking. It's like, oh, that's really cool. I want to do something like that. I want to feel like that person.
John Wayne with camels.
Right, exactly. I was gonna say the John Wayne of Camel John Wayne connection of that was always what you associated one versus the other. You would be people in front of those brands, but now it's almost because is it because of influencers in that regards? Has it become a dirty term, or has it become a term that it's so broad range? Because you can say it in a good way, but you can also say it in a bad way. You can influence decisions. Like ultimately, that's what it comes from. Have you established like other sorts of definitions in terms of like where we're going with this?
I don't know. I don't get really into the name. I think people try to get cute and try to, we don't use influencers because we call them content creators, or we call them ambassadors and stuff like that. Whatever word you want to use, they're still the same means. You're influencing other people around you, whether it be your audience on social media or you're a business owner and you're not on social media, but you're influencing those around you. So obviously, like when we're talking influencer marketing, we're talking about people on social media, but everybody has influence. So
Right.
whether we want to use that word or not, I like to just still say the same word or use influencer just because I want to change sort of the connotation of the way that people think about influencer marketing, which sometimes it is negative.
Right. So yeah, I guess like starting your business with Kynship, is that something where, what was that decision from going from a known brand to something where you have to like now solicit and work with different clients as well, like different brands, like you have to different markets you have to focus on, right? Like
Yeah.
you said anywhere from like celebrity clients to mommy bloggers that you're working with on a day-to-day basis. That's a lot wider ranging focus that you have to do, instead of, hey, we have one brand we're working for and now that's it. Like what was that jump like in terms of that capacity?
Oh man, I could talk for hours about this, but I think it's also just the early business startup life, right? You're just trying to figure out what people want and scale that. And honestly, like the first year and a half, we were just trying to figure that out. Like what brands want, what do they need, and how do we like position that? So it's not so much about their brand and product, but just like what do like consistent D2C e-commerce brand owners want out of influencers. And I think a lot of times we were just trying to, of course, when you're surviving as a startup too, especially in the early days, you're doing whatever, hey, whatever you want, I'll do for you, just to try to keep the train moving. But eventually, like you get to a point where I think you can service them the way that you know best. And I think that was actually tying back into my days at QALO, what we ended up doing a lot and what we'll talk a lot about today, I'm sure, which is
Mhm.
doing influencer seeding for brands and kind of putting a package together that was really attractive for brand owners in that way. But before that we were just trying to service any sort of influencer service for clients in the beginning. And I think a lot of, I'm sure you probably relate to that. Every, brand owner probably or business owner relates to that in some degree.
Absolutely. So yeah, you brought up a fascinating point. And when I was doing some research into the company, I like the facet that how the process you've kind of established like this KPI, or the KPIs that you want to put together, but also just the process of what you're doing it. Fascinating in terms of product seeding. What do you mean by product seeding? I have a general concept. I think I know what you're talking about, but for the
Yeah.
listener and watcher out there, what does that mean for the Joe Schmo, if you will?
It means sending your product out for free. That's essentially what it is, whether that be to your mom or to your friends and family. But when we say it's to influencers, to people of influence, the people that you really would be proud that they represent your company, those are the people that you want to send out product for free. But essentially, the basic definition comes from broadcast farming, like seeding. You're just throwing seed on the ground, some sprouts up. I'm from Orange County, so you're in Indianapolis. Maybe you can tell me a little bit more about this, but I don't, that's my basic understanding of it. Some will sprout out, some won't, but the some that does sprout up, like those are the relationships that you now have that you can create long-term partnerships with. So that's kind of the foundation and basic definition of seeding.
Yeah, farming 101, like not every seed's going to grow. Obviously, someone's going to, die off, and not everything is going to take root. But the things that do grow, obviously you can bear fruit from it. I mean, yeah, farming 101 of, yeah, field that way, field that way, field that way. It's all around us, and it needs to happen, but obviously you got to cultivate it, you got to grow it. It's
Mm-hmm.
beginning processes of it. Is there so obviously, I mean, that makes sense. Like you want to send it to people. I'm assuming there's like a list of people you can inevitably send goods to. It's not something you're just going to broadcast. Like, for example, where LeBron James lives, like you can look it up, but you're not going to give away addresses to people, like go crazy and send them a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
So how do you like how do you kind of rein that in? Is it by categories, by product type? People are open to receiving that kind of stuff. Where does that process begin
Yeah,
in
I
your
mean,
mind?
yeah, you nailed it. That's the first step of you got to be able to identify the right influencers for your brand. So obviously, if you're a sock or a running shoe company, you're not going to be sending these to people that play NFL or anything like
Mhm.
that. So that's kind of like no duh. But then there's things deeper in terms of identifying the right influencers that are going to reap what you end up wanting. So some people, and what we think is like great video content creators that are going to lend itself to great video UGC in return, stuff like that. But yeah, your foundational level, you guys know the brand the best. You should be able to identify the right people that fit along those things, and those, qualitative metrics.
Is it a wish list? Almost like that'd be really cool if we can get our product in the hands of like this person. I feel like we know their identity, but then again, I guess then it comes to like in theory, you know that person and it's perception. But then you might have an athlete or someone who might have like you said, we were talking either pre-show, like Taco Tuesday or something like that with LeBron James, and like he has all these like intricacies. Like he's, again, I know this because we many people follow him, but like he's a big wine person, he's a big
Right.
like cigar person, but he's also a big health and fitness person. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Branded by Nike, clearly. There's all these different things that kind of fit in different aspects of their lives. How do you become aware of like their passions in that regards, like almost the side thing that they're not known for, but then they will also want to be a part of. It's
Yeah.
just
I
testing.
mean, there's some tools that help you, especially nowadays in this world. Most of the time, like, we're not talking about the macros of the world, because those
Right.
macros, there's so many people that are following them for 8 different reasons, rather than a micro that's smaller. And when I say micro, I say really anyone sub 150K of following.
Mhm.
There's like a million different definitions out there, but that's kind of
Right.
our
Micro,
definition.
nano. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, but usually you're following that person because they are a vegan food blogger, and you're vegan and you love food, and that's why you're following them. So it's just like 1 to 2 reasons compared to like 8 to 9 when you get at like a bigger scale.
So would that be so brands that are coming to you? Where do I join you on my journey? If I'm an e-commerce seller, am I doing this from the beginning, like launching a product, like I haven't even been public for a long time? What's the
Mm,
traditional? When do I engage with Kinship?
Well, the short answer is, if you can afford us, then we'll work with you.
There you
So no matter what
go.
stage you're at, that's fine. But normally, I think you're a little bit late. You're a little bit down the road in terms of, you got branding, you got your unboxing experience, you have your website, and so you're not just starting out, but you got kind of like your customer experience dialed in. Um, but yeah, as far as like the product goes, like that's when I think we can start at any stage in terms of being able to identify and start our process alongside with you.
Do you is it a lot of just like coaching? Like you have to tell people, hey, these are the steps along the way. You can't just like jump from the beginning to like the end of the road. Like it's that growing experience. Is that what a lot of the calls in day to day have to be in a profession like yours of, hey, this is a process, it's gonna grow over time. You can't just like snap your fingers and make everything happen. What's that like on a day-to-day basis for you?
Yeah, I mean, as an agency provider, I think the biggest thing that I tell people is like, you just got to communicate expectations over and over and over again. Like, this is what, our first call was about, and over again, like, we're communicating the same thing of what we can expect. That's where we've run into issues where we're not communicating. But yeah, communicating up front, like, this is what you're going to get. Because I think with these relationships, like you said, it's not like overnight. But with our process, like, you're gonna get in the short term a ton of UGC, a ton of organic posts for free, all those sorts of things. But then those relationships, that's where it starts to materialize. I think like what you're mentioning too is like, all marketing comes with inherent risk. Like, you don't just turn on Facebook ads and just start getting conversion for every dollar that you spend. You
Mhm.
can spend and not get anything, and you're willing to risk that because you believe in the platform. Same thing with influencers. You got to believe that these relationships will be valuable to you long term. um, and some won't get it. Some won't, like the product, just like your customers kind of return the product. So you got to be willing to take that risk as you start seeding out and sending your product out for people and building relationships with people.
Got it. So where's a good place to start? Like if I'm listening to this, I like it. I want to like my company to another level. People have told me I need to get into influencer marketing. I need to start some sort of program. What does that look like, and where do you typically point people in that direction?
I would start with seeding. I'm going to be a broken record today, but that is just the most foundational way, because most of the time, when I talk to brand owners all day long, they all say, I want a long-term community of influencers that are posting about me consistently over time. I say, great. Your behavior needs to match that belief system. And most of the time, the behavior that goes against that belief system is a bunch of one-off posts, paying people very transactional. Oh, this person has a sexy amount of followers, so I want to get to them and I want to pay for their, access into their audience. And then everybody kind of wipes their hands clean and moves on. The way I would say is you just got to get your product and brand into their hands, because those are going to be the people that you want to work with anyways. Because you want the advocacy that they drive to their audiences to be genuine. And it's only genuine if they believe in your brand ethos, they love your product, etc.
What about so in that regards, if I'm seeding, like with the process, like I know we kind of like we're going back to it, and I know I don't mind broken record. I think it's super important to understand.
Yeah.
From that capacity, is there like metrics that can support like behind like the whole 80/20 rule? Like 80% of the products I'm gonna send out there, like 20% will be like
Yeah.
accepted, or how, I mean, how do you insert that processes? Is it on you as a brand? Is it like, do you reach out to them on like DMs, or is there contact information? Like, I know
Yeah.
you're, as a company, facilitate some of those
Yeah,
relationships,
we
but
do it all. We're doing it all, like A through Z. But yeah, let's get into the practicalities. I would reach out through DM and email. And every outreach that you send, it should be, hey, Ryan, this is a free gift. We'd love to send you the product, no strings attached. And all that means is there's no expectation for you to do anything with it. I just want to get the product into your hands. From there, as you outreach to all these people offering that same gift, you should expect at least 20% of people to opt in. If your brand and product is better than that, maybe you get more opt-in. Let's just be real. So like if you have more credibility, if your brand product is awesome or really attractive or sexy, you're going to get more opt-in. But as a minimum benchmark, you should expect 20% opt-in. So if you reach out to 30 influencers, you should expect 6 to opt in and say, yes, I'd love to receive your product. Now, of the people that you outreach to, you should expect 30% of those to post for free without you even asking. So
and that's just they understand, like it's pretty apparent, like people understand I'm sending product for you to take a look at. If you like it, they get that, right? Like that's the whole concept behind influencer marketing. You're on social media, of course, like I mean, no strings attached, but you're not expecting them to. But they also understand, like, hey, if I do like this, I will say, got this in the mail today, tag social XYZ, maybe.
Yeah, I
Like
think
you're talking about.
I think people are really honored by generosity. So they feel like a sense of like, oh wow, like this was a really awesome gift. They didn't even ask for anything. I'm gonna throw it up on my story. I'm gonna make a TikTok video out of it. But it's their own genuine interaction with it. If they don't like it, they're not gonna post about it.
Sure. Makes
And
sense.
you don't want to work with them anyways. But yeah, you should expect at least 30% to post for free just without you even asking.
Is there a tip to find like people like that? That would be in my version. Like if I'm selling like children's clothing items,
Yeah.
or children's toys or something like that, like that's not something that I would naturally follow on my own social channels based on what likes. It's just a business that I'm operating. How would you search for that? Is it you can just go into Instagram and search baby, toys or something like that, like
Yeah.
followers? How do you start to seek out some of these influencers?
There's 3 free tools and they're all on social media. One, I'll just start with Facebook, which is probably the least amount of people that use in terms of like younger demographic.
Mhm.
But Facebook Brands Collabs Manager, or maybe we should call it Meta so Facebook
Meta
RIP.
Manager.
Meta for creators. I think if you Google that, it's just a way that it's free. You can discover influencers that are on Facebook and Instagram on there. The second is Instagram itself. If you go on a profile, so if you just know one influencer that you're like, oh man, I've been following this influencer, I'd love to get them our product, etc. Go on their profile. There's a little drop-down arrow that if you hit that drop-down arrow, it'll pump out algorithm picked influencers that are all similar to that same influencer.
Yep.
Back in like the heyday, 2014, 2015, before all these tools were out there, I would spend hours discovering influencers for QALO, just doing that.
Putting in your spreadsheets and things like that. You're like, this person
Exactly.
can be found at handled this way.
Yeah. And then the third is TikTok, which is a hot ticket that people should be jumping on now. But it's called Creator Marketplace. Also free. It's owned by TikTok, but you can apply as an advertiser or as a brand, and you should get accepted. But that's a way that all three of those, especially the TikTok Creator Marketplace and the brand's collabs manager, you can go on and search. Like if I'm Gymshark, I can search Gymshark, and like people mentioning that, or like you mentioned the baby clothing, people mentioning baby clothes or kids or anything like that.
Is there how often should I be doing this as a brand owner? Because shoot, there's without like mitigating the amount of quote actual influencers out there. I say actual, again, it's a scale and degree of people can become. I can start my TikTok account today, and in a week I can have a pretty significant I mean, like that's just the nature of growing. People are opting in, they're trying to get content that's applicable to them, and the algorithm is a fire hose. Literally, you can't, like, there's no offshoots. Like that's why TikTok
Right.
is so popular. You understand this, but for the listener out there, it's just this fire hose of content that's only coming from one source. I can't go to stories, I can't go to posts, I can't go to
Right.
reels or anything like that. It's all contained in one like concept, literal stream. And that's how you find people. So there's, in that regards, how often am I checking for new people to the market, or how often should I like refresh my list of people? Daily, weekly, monthly? Is there a good practice?
I'm gonna say something pretty controversial here. Every time you take a dump, you could go check out and discover influencers.
Every time you have to go to the bathroom, got it.
There you go.
Makes sense. It's that regular, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going once a day, that's either once a day that you're sitting on your phone anyways, and you can find 5 influencers right then and there. Over time, that's 150 influencers.
That makes sense. I mean, well, I mean, is that is there too many to manage? Like, I guess in that capacity, like that's organic. Like again, you're creating a lead list. This would be like marketing in general. Of got to create the funnel of that. We're talking 30%, 30%, and then of those people there's going to be the regular people who will speak to you on a engagement level. I'm assuming you want to build out that list so that it's big enough and consistent enough where there's constant content out there in your world of
It
influencers.
just depends on your goals, right? Like if you just want to get to like long term, hey, I just want 30 consistent influencers that like I can just build my brand around and build relationships. And for the next year, I'm just going to ride these 30. For some, it's like I want to get as many people my product as possible. And for some, it's multi-layered. For us at QALO, when I was running the influencer program, it was like these were the people that we were just seeding product every month. And then it was people that we had monthly, organic posts going live, almost like an affiliate before there was affiliate tools. And then we had like just UGC content that we were getting for repurpose as ads. And then we just had people that like Dale Earnhardt Jr. that signed a long year contract with us and was kind of like the face of the brand. He had his own product line, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a $30 million brand that has multi-levels, and we were spending $1 million a year on influencer marketing. So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of coin to be spending on influencers. Not every brand has that, nor has the resources or maybe an internal employee like me to run it.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on like, how do we want to, I'll go back to the question of how you want to get started. The more that you can populate that list, the more that you can outreach to those people and offer your product, the better numbers you're going to get and the more relationships that you can start getting. And that's where that compounding value can start building momentum.
At the risk of sounding like a curmudgeon, like marketing person, can influence. I'm only 32, man. I've seen a lot, but in this capacity of, for the audience, traditional media, there's still a factor, and there's still a lot of like reach in terms of the capacity. Social media is so wide ranging. It's like the metaverse as been dictated is so wide and reaching, and you can get hit from a bunch of different ways. And of course, like there's the likes of the crackdowns and privacy in terms of like people don't like Facebook doesn't like, or Amazon doesn't like Facebook a lot anymore. They won't reward traffic to there for Amazon sellers. They like, for example, Pinterest. Like it's constantly like who's in the good graces of all these different things. So many different platforms constantly are created. There you can be everywhere and anywhere, but it seems like there's a lot of places you can be an influencer on. Again, Instagram, Facebook, consistent. There's Twitter. There's all these different places. But going back to like the traditional media of like news outlets or just getting editorial pieces or just magazines and stuff like that, is there a component of which this also works in that world of, hey, those influencers still like write for the Washington Post or they go for Fox News or whatever it is, like whoever you are trying to reach?
I mean, I'll kind of go back to like what Gary Vee says all the time. It's just like, you want to be where your consumers are. So like, just where are your consumers spending time and be there. So if your brand, like if your consumers are spending a lot of time in the Washington Post and you have data behind that, then sure, like find an editor or find an influencer that can be posted there. But for most e-commerce brands that like we work with, a lot of the time, like it's Instagram and TikTok, and those platforms. But yeah, I would never argue against if a brand came to us and said like, this is where people are buying. Right. I'd be like, great, let's try to get people that have influence over those areas or built followings in those categories.
Yeah. And a lot of people, if they're new to the space, and again, lots of different brands are constantly coming into market. They want to know like, how does this setup work? How do people get paid eventually? Like, let's say you have this great network. I'm working with you and that team. People have heard of influencer marketing, but how they get compensated, not always to the point of so transparent. In terms of that capacity, I've worked in affiliate marketing for multiple different companies, so I get it at the genesis of what it is. But for you guys and your team, is it as simple as affiliate marketing, commissionable, trackable information of like promo codes, links, or just like straight impression play? Is that where you guys are working in those dynamics of how influencers are getting compensated for working with brands?
Well, most of the time when we're doing seeding packages for brands, we're not paying one influencer just because.
Right. Let's take it a step further. But once you actually engage with them and you want to start that working relationship, like you said, when you were working at, Dale Earnhardt had his own year-long contract. Like when you get to that point, the in-between step of someone not so big, but you also want to like pay for, hey, I'm going to consistently post about you guys for once a month or once a week or something like that. What's that step before that major contract happens?
Yeah, I mean, I think affiliate programs are a way to scoop up money off the table of the way the influencers. So like giving them a link for them to share and rewarding them based on your commission. The way that I would think about it is just, if you can think about it from an AOV perspective, like comparing it to like what you're spending on Facebook, if you can reward them enough to share it enough, make that commission enough for them to be attractive. So yeah, it's just basically thinking about it from like comparing it to like your CPA target. So if you have like a $40 AOV, paying the influencer $10, which would be 25%, is cheaper than paying $20 to Facebook in that scenario. That's obviously like a lower AOV, but so that's kind of like a way to think about it just from an affiliate perspective. But yeah, there's certainly a percentage of spend behind their content within that account, or a percentage of revenue that they acquire through their content. I think when it comes to like contracts that you can have, I always suggest is like, once you've identified people that perform well within your ads or that you really like their content, just paying them for UGC creation and then maybe having them post one of those assets, just because they treat their organic socials like a TV network. So they charge
impressions.
they charge the most for that. So I'll just try to think about it as more like UGC content creation than organic distribution.
Gotcha. So is the major play that you would maybe teach people is that the constant seeding approach of, because there's so many different people emerging every time, again, that we're naturally just getting dumping. There's more people coming to the market constantly, that you live in that space of not exploit, but work with the new emerging people constantly, so you don't have to put all the resources
Yeah.
into one channel? Or
No, I
what's
would
that?
say like I would love for brands to build like kind of what I referenced earlier, what I had at QALO, just like an influencer pyramid. And like the foundation
Mhm.
is seeding, but then you move up and you have, as people, love your brand, dig your brand, they've proven success, work with them, contractualize with them, get them onto an affiliate program, get them on a UGC contract. And then as certain categories show themselves to be really successful, maybe find a macro partnership that can represent your brand, be a flag bearer, be that big face that can drive retail partnerships,
Mhm.
like Dale did for us at QALO with Lowe's and Home Depot and REI. Like that was a big name that got us into those stores. So there's definitely valuable in those partnerships. I just think like you don't have to just jump from zero to, okay, I'm gonna pay Dale Earnhardt Jr. 200 grand.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not scalable, and you don't know the actual return on it. It's that's those small
Right.
steps in between. What's an example you can share with us, Cody, that is a bad way to build influencer marketing program without naming names and like crucifying yourself to like the branding world out there? But what's a bad way to start your influencer or build your influencer marketing program? Is there one like now that's operating? You're like, they will not last.
No, I don't, none really come to mind because all of them, a lot that I see is still operating in that transactional nature. So like what I referenced earlier, they're just trying to get as many one-off posts as possible. And again, long term, that just does not reap what they're going for. And it's like the behavior doesn't match the belief system because nobody says like, "Oh, I don't really care about a community or I don't really care about influencers. I just want as many one-off posts as possible." But they operate in that way. So I think that's where people are missing it. They're settling for like that short-term hit, like the little maybe boost in sales that they get from that one post. But the more that they do it, they kind of see those one-off things hit sometimes. Most are probably not. Let's just be real. But maybe they get, a boost of follower count and that hits the dopamine too. So it's just like they're just constantly trying to hit this. But short answer, no. I'm sorry, I don't have like the
No, you're
hot
fine.
take that you'd put on the front of this YouTube.
Uh,
Drink
I don't
fresh.
have anyone. I'm gonna say Cody's literally dumping on like this company.
Yeah.
We have a theme, and I have to stick strong with this. Didn't think they would turn this way today. Here we are. I think because it's so like evolutionary, and there's again, I say brands are speedboats. Big brands are the cruiser ships of
Mhm.
it's hard to switch in a moment's notice and like work with those small people or the people who are emerging quickly and really focus on that, without spending like all your time doing this and reaching out. Is there like is there like a way that feels, I mean, like you said, it's just engaging and say, hey, no strings attached, reaching out to these people. Is there Should I look for a certain metric as well as like I know in that seeding round there's metrics, but as I build out my influencer marketing program, what metrics do I need to really worry about versus the ones that are fake and arbitrary and they get my dopamine going and I feel like I'm gonna take over the world essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's three, but I'll focus on just two. The third that I'm not going to mention is basically just like seeding just becomes CAC. Like it just becomes cost to acquire a customer. In theory, like that's like the
Mhm.
best way to relate it to that
It's very
category.
simple. Yeah. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
The second category is the more customers, influencers that you acquire through the cost of sending your product. The second category is just like the price per piece of creative. So the content that you're actually able to generate from these influencers. Post iOS 14 world, like content is just so important and like brands are always after more content. So influencers can be a great source. And so the more that you can populate your content library, the better that's going to lead to the ways that you can repurpose that content. So for us, like a lot of time that's repurposed within the ad account, within Facebook, just to be specific, Meta. And that's where, I mean, you're just judging it based off like return on ad spend at that point after you're using this content. So again, those are kind of like, as it's starting to build out, at the beginning, I would just think about, man, how many people can I get these hands or my product in the hands of these influencers? And a way to think about it is just like from a CAC perspective, because it is a cost to you, but it's just the cogs of your product.
Yeah, sorry. I had to mute myself because I have a dreaming dog behind me under my desk right now. So if you hear woofing in the background, don't freak out, everyone listening to this. There's no like child in danger. She's just dreaming, trying to chase something. That in that case, is there like an inspiration, like because you had to build this out and this was all organic, like you had to do this on the fly. What are those inspirational ways of brands that you think that are doing it the right way and you kind of model, or like you say, hey, like this is the brand that no one knew about because through this, apart from the one that you built themselves, that you kind of like are envious or like, shoot, I should have thought about that. And that's a great way to take it to another level. Is there innovation in the space that you're really, because you're working with so many brands, that you're just, man, that was a great idea?
Yeah. I don't know if it's like necessarily like novel ideas right now. But I think two that come to mind are just Lululemon and Gymshark that were always like in my mind as ones that were kind of ahead of the space. And Gymshark really got its start through seating. Um, like their story is like, I mean, Ben Francis started out of his garage and he just started hitting fitness events, just passing out apparel to all these different fitness influencers on YouTube. So that was like one of his starts that kind of is hint, an inspiration for seating as well. But since then, they've had multiple funnels and they take care of their athletes really well. And so they have a full functioning like program that's really inspiring. I think they do it the right way. And Lululemon, just like the way that they thought about ambassadors, it wasn't always necessarily like the biggest people with the biggest following. And that means like, that's the right influencer for us, but who's like the right fit and who's going to actually represent this category really, really well. I think that's always, you're on the right track, because people get caught up in the vanity metrics. So there are always ones that were kind of like, who the heck is this person? I've never even heard of them. But they were just like, they represented yoga or they represented rock climbing like really well, but they just weren't like the biggest name. So those are two kind of like top of my head.
Yeah, I was gonna say one that kind of took me by surprise in the kitchen space. I've worked in home and garden before, but the kitchen space, it kind of took me by surprise. Once I started paying attention, they became everywhere. Is Our Place? Are you familiar with like it's just it's a pot or a pan, and if you go to like Food Network or any cooking channel, my God, they're everywhere on their spend on like YouTube TV and stuff like that is phenomenal. But then also on social media, it's all these different one-off suggested for you. Again, Facebook is trying to feed you all this content of like suggested for you. It's not really an ad, but it is for that brand of product, but it's from a different influencer. I'm like, again, like I get like everyone's populating this product, and if you search for it, I'm sure it'll pop up too. But I think the company's called Our Place, and it's just a one pan, but it's supposed to be an all everything it can do is like can take away like 7 pieces of cookware or something like that. So, I mean, I paid attention. I don't think my wife is listening to this right now, but like, yeah, that was an easy check mark for the holiday season.
I'm scared to look them up because then I'll enter into their funnel and then I'll just be I'll just be hitting
Funnel's amazing, but it's not even like their brand. So I guess like to that question too, it made me think, can it get lost, your brand get lost amongst like all these different competing like influencers of like, come follow us, this is a great product, but like the name or the logo is what's really at the forefront instead of the product itself? Can that be a negative for influencer marketing, or is it really in any sort of negative outcome to influencer marketing that people need to be wary of?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, influencers that are posting different brands or competitors all the time, I would stay away from those that are posting one brand today, then other competitor tomorrow. But I don't see any negatives of people that are consistently posting the same things that they really believe in, because I think that's because some people aren't going to dig it and maybe get annoyed of it and unfollow them, but then there's going to be those that are like, yeah, I really like that too, or I really believe in them too, or just simply not bothered by it. I think, I mean, studies show, and there's a lot of data around this, which is like most people are unfazed by the hashtag sponsored or hashtag ad. Um, and most people are looking to those influencers for recommendations,
Yeah.
um, because they value that person. They trust
Well,
them.
even nowadays, it's, I mean, like I'm sure like the marketing for BuzzFeed is a plenty right now because it's firing off all these different like products that you can find, going through stories of, hey, shop this right now. Um, Depending on your like search history, it's, again, data is scary in the negative context, but it's also awesome because it can be very cultivated to you as a profile, which is
Yeah.
also positive. You don't want to take it a step further and be creepy about it. So there is that fine line. So Cody, I guess in the last couple of like minutes I have with you today, what's like the future look like in influencer marketing? Is it consistently tying to like Meta, Instagram slash Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or is there other ways that this is going to evolve and you kind of see that coming? You just don't know how that's going to evolve yet, but it's coming. Is there, what's that future look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think more focus on the content will be continued to be the focus, which I think is a great thing. So less focus on vanity metrics, more focus on content. I think TikTok really made an impact on that when like short form content became like the focus, and the way that their algorithm works, it's not like with the For You page, it's not, based on who you're following or other people that you're following, but it's just based on the content that you're consuming and how it feeds you that same content. So I hope it continues to go down that route. But I think we'll continue to see brands and influencer created brands, or like influencer owned brands, more and more. I know that was, kind of an up and coming thing, like even less than a year ago or 2 years ago. You'll start to see that more with like macros creating their own brands and off the audiences that they have.
Absolutely. Well, that's really cool. I want to thank you today too, because I'm always learning new things of, I think the processes makes more sense of, constantly, it's almost like farming. Like you have to, seed the field. And again, I think the metrics are also important to know. Like if that's a benchmark that you're shooting for, keeping in mind an awesome takeaway that listeners can take of, hey, of what you put out there, 30% of that, hopefully shoot for 30%. If your product's amazing, then you're in the right field and it's hopefully more than 30%. But I think that's so fascinating of everyone nowadays. I love the fact that certain people can become an influencer just out of sheer women. I'll share this example with you, and I think it's a cool idea of, with Amazon brands putting inserts in. Obviously, they can't ask for reviews. There's certain things you cannot ask for. It's listed in the terms of services. But what I saw was the most creative thing I found fascinating was business put in insert that says, "Hope you like our product. If you like our brand or product, share a video on TikTok, put the hashtag brand
Yeah.
unboxing video or something like that. And if it gets to a certain threshold, like we'll send you $100 or something like that." Everyone instantly is like, hell yeah, I want to become an influencer. I want to become something that's famous and maybe get $100 out of it just by sharing it. That's organic content that you're building out for yourself of, you're not
Right.
paying anything, but the promise of if it gets to a certain view threshold, like there's a couple metrics of send us your order ID, send it like tag us in it and make sure you use the hashtag in. If it gets to that certain level, yeah, of course that content we're gonna pay you for, and that's amazing. And
I
like,
love that
well,
idea.
let's yeah work for there. So, for your people in the future, if they want to become
Right.
like build influencers from the organic nature of people buying your products anyway. So I think it's
Right.
cool. Yeah, one of the more fascinating ways to build out an audience, followers, things like that, without saying you have to do step XYZ. Like us, follow us, like
Right.
this page.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
one easy, simple, unified metric. So cool stuff
I
like
love
that.
that.
Cody, do you think it's for people who want to, like, if they want to learn more about Kinship yourself, they want to walk through these processes, saying like, hey, I want to work with you. I want to like throw some ideas around you. Like you said, pre-show, you're talking with customers all the time and potential clients. What is the best way to connect with you and
Yeah.
follow or reach out?
I'm very active on Twitter and Instagram, so you can just connect me with there at Cody Wittick. And then you're there, since you're connecting with me, you're connecting with my agency. But Kynship, KYNSHIP.co. You can connect me with us there. But yeah, thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Influencer of his own company. That's what we like to see. So you're the influencer. I don't know how many influencers are for Kynship, but hopefully this is a cool way to get the brand out there. And we appreciate you sharing your insights and knowledge, and great success. Hopefully things are looking good for, I'm sure the holiday season is really busy for you. So just taking some time today to talk with our audience and learning some stuff. And now friend of the show, Cody Wittick of Kynship.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. Thank you, Cody. And then thank you everyone else who joined in on Crossover Commerce. We appreciate your time today. Awesome Friday conversation that we had here on Crossover Commerce. So if you like what you hear, obviously go ahead and follow us on social media, share this with your audience as well, and tag either Cody or myself or PingPong Payments in it. We'll love that following as well. We talked about organic following. This is how you do it. You build a podcast in a year and you put out content. You build that consistent muscle and you share with your audience as much as possible. If you liked what you heard, just let us know what you liked and what you didn't like, what your thoughts are. We'd love to hear from you as well. That being said, this is Crossover Commerce, my corner of the internet. We'll be back next week with lots of great content. Make sure you guys tune in and subscribe to us on social channels to be notified of future episodes of Crossover Commerce. We'll catch you guys next time. Have a good weekend. Take care.